Dyslexia. What is dyslexia? The definition of dyslexia is a condition of neurodevelopmental origin that mainly affects the ease in which a person reads, writes, and spells. Dyslexia affects a wide range of people. 1 in every 5 has a version of dyslexia, some more affected than others. Signs of dyslexia include slow reading and writing, confusing the order of letters and words, struggle with planning and organisation, poor, inconsistent spelling, and in most cases, these signs are spotted at an early age. For example, I was diagnosed at age 9. To look at dyslexia in a bit more detail, here is the brain. We have 2 main sections to the brain, the left side and the right side. The left is mainly responsible for academic tasks, such as language, math, logistics, and the right side of the brain is more suited to things like creativity, art, and music. For people with dyslexia, the left side of the brain is targeted the most, making it much harder to complete tasks like reading and writing, while the right side of the brain is relied upon more for day-to-day tasks. When I relate dyslexia to dance, my mind first goes to directional dyslexia. Directional dyslexia can be defined as having extreme difficulty distinguishing right from left and following a sequence of directions or retracing a path. My experience with dyslexia. My dad once told me a story of when he first found out I might have dyslexia, and it has stuck with me. According to him, when I was small, he sat me down with paper and pen and told me to do as he did. He took the pen and drew a perfect square on the paper. He then told me to do the same. I picked up the pen, then drew a line. However, then the line started to curve, and in one way or another, I managed to get to the other side of the line. The shape I had managed to draw looked nothing like a square or any other shape I had seen. Somehow I wasn't able to copy and draw 4 straight lines. Shortly after this, I was tested and then diagnosed with dyslexia when I was 9 years old. Previous to my diagnosis, the signs of my dyslexia were somewhat obvious. Other than the story my dad had told me, I had the usual telltale signs going through primary school. Problems with reading, writing and spelling. In my 5th year at primary school, I was temporarily moved to the year below thanks to not being able to keep up in my classes. This nearly became permanent. Since then, academia has had a sort of sleep-provoking effect. During secondary school, I was forever nodding off, thanks to my brain's upright refusal to understand or piece together the black and white shapes they call letters on a page I was trying to study. Thankfully, I had an alternative way of learning and communicating. I started dance when I was about 12 or 13. I was able to move how I wanted. This also allowed me to engage with things much more than if I was sitting at a desk. My first introduction to dance was improvisation. I discovered that I preferred smooth, rounded, 3-dimensional shapes with no set beginning and end, rather than straight lines with a decisive A to B point. The pattern of avoiding straight lines is evident in nearly everything I do. Dance, handwriting, and sometimes I even catch myself swerving as I walk down the street. During this section, I will be focusing on contemporary, more specifically the classes taught by Jason Mabana. These release-based classes draw from a variety of techniques, but are brought together by Jason's unique dance style and way of teaching. To quote the Essential Guide to Contemporary Dance Techniques, "It was not created for a specific choreographic style, so learning processes are more open-ended. Thanks to this being the nature of release-based technique, I was able to experience Jason's style in a dance environment purely created by him. I have found that this in itself has its own advantages for me and for dyslexic brains. In my own experience, other more classical techniques like Cunningham or ballet have had a more strict structure. For example, in ballet traditionally you start at the bar, move to the centre and finish off with jumps. With this, the movements tend to follow the same simplistic form. And the work of Merce Cunningham is filled almost entirely with straight lines and specific shapes that creates movement that has little regard for flow, dynamics, quality and texture. When practicing in this movement environment, my brain tends to relate the structure with academia, even though it is purely movement-based. Straight lines, simple change in direction, and linear shapes become blurred due to directional dyslexia, and I often become tense in these situations. However, in release-based classes like Jason's class, the tension is dropped, as there is more of a focus on quality, which helps me relax, making it easier to take in and hold movement. However, even with the free-natured atmosphere, Jason's classes still come with its challenges. The style of class that Jason has developed is fast-paced, not only in the pace of teaching the movement, but also the fast, sharp movement itself. For myself and others with dyslexic brains, this can be like speed reading. I am trying to break down each shape into bite-sized chunks to decode and piece together in a short amount of time. This also resembles how a lot of dyslexics read, breaking up each word into manageable chunks, making the process of reading twice as long. I find it interesting to see how the pattern is followed in different environments of work. Capoeira. In this section, I will be focusing on capoeira and the classes I have experienced with Ponciano Almeida. Capoeira is an Afro-Brazilian martial art and is commonly referred to as the dance fight game, as it combines dance, acrobatics, music and spirituality. For me, going into capoeira has been a relatively new experience, not just as a new dance form, but as a different way of engaging with movement. One of the first things we do when we enter the studio is warm up. We normally do this through movement called chunga, a low-balanced step that moves from one side to the other. After this short warm-up, meaning the entirety of the practice is done one-to-one, often one-on-one play, and a light sense of competition. While this goes on, Ponciano often pauses to either teach traditional Brazilian songs, tells cultural stories that have been passed down through capoeira, or explains the practical use of movements that derive from the more martial arts settings. This range of learning methods is multi-sensory and taps into multiple uses for the right side of the brain, such as music and creativity. This encourages the dyslexic brain to engage and learn. As each class continued, I began to become more accustomed to this new way of learning. I found it began to help some elements of directional dyslexia. For example, dodging and avoiding kicks is a big part of capoeira, and there is a right and a wrong way to dodge, depending on which leg they use. You are also able to dodge in multiple directions: right, left, up, even down. This can cause struggle for people with directional dyslexia. However, thanks to a learning environment that utilises and engages the brain in multiple ways, I was able to navigate through the movement better than I have ever done before.